The first thing I noticed wasn't my sister's smile, or my mother's too loud laugh, or even the smell of overcooked rosemary chicken filling the dining room. It was the way my father wouldn't look at me. He kept adjusting his fork, tapping it against the plate as if the metal might answer questions he didn't want to hear. And in that quiet, trembling space between clinks and chewing, something inside my chest tightened. An instinct honed by years of being the afterthought, the fixer, the one who stayed silent so others could be comfortable. That night I should have trusted that feeling. The dinner was supposed to be simple. "Family time," my mother had said over the phone, her voice syrupy with forced warmth. "It's been too long since we all sat together." I arrived early as usual. Old habit. The kind you pick up when you're raised to believe that being helpful earns you love. The house looked the same as it always had. Cream walls, neatly trimmed hedges, warm porch lights glowing like nothing bad could ever happen there. I parked my car in the driveway I'd helped pay to repave 3 years ago, stepped out, and smoothed my dress with a breath that felt heavier than it should have. Inside, the table was already set. Fine china. The good napkins. That alone should have warned me. My sister Lily arrived 20 minutes later, fashionably late. Her heels clicking like punctuation marks announcing her importance. She hugged my parents dramatically, kissed the air near my cheek, and flashed that smile, the one that had gotten her out of consequences her entire life. "Wow," she said, scanning the room. "Feels nostalgic." I smiled back, careful, restrained. "Yeah, it does." Dinner started politely. Work updates. Weather complaints. My mother asked Lily about her exciting new chapter, which made Lily's eyes gleam like she'd been waiting for a cue. She cleared her throat halfway through the meal. "So," she said brightly, setting down her wine glass, "I guess this is as good a time as any." The fork froze halfway to my mouth. "I've decided," Lily continued, her voice smooth, confident, "that I'm moving in." Silence dropped across the table like a heavy curtain. My mother gasped, not in surprise but in delight. "Oh, sweetheart, finally." My father nodded slowly. Too slowly. Still not looking at me. I swallowed. "Moving in where?" Lily turned to me then, eyebrows lifting as if the answer were obvious. "Here, of course." "Here." The word echoed in my head, colliding with memories I'd buried deep, of late-night shifts, of wiring money transfers, of signing documents I barely understood because I trusted my family more than I trusted myself. "This house?" I asked quietly. "Yes," she said, laughing lightly. "I mean, it makes sense. It's family property." Family property. My hands trembled beneath the table. "I didn't realize we were making decisions like that," I said, forcing my voice steady. "No one mentioned anything to me." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, don't be dramatic. Lily's going through a rough patch. She needs support." Lily sighed, playing her role perfectly. "The divorce has been hard." There it was. The sympathy card. The same one she always pulled. I nodded slowly. "I'm sorry you're struggling. But moving in isn't a small thing. We should talk about logistics, ownership, space." My father finally looked at me then. And his eyes weren't apologetic. They were resigned. "Well," he said, clearing his throat, "that's actually something we meant to discuss tonight." The room felt suddenly too warm. Too small. "What do you mean?" I asked. My mother reached across the table and placed her hand over Lily's. "Not mine." "Sweetheart," she said, her tone soft but firm. "This house, it's complicated." I laughed once. Sharp, broken sound. "It's not complicated. I paid the down payment. I've been covering the mortgage for 5 years. The utilities are in my name." Lily tilted her head. "You helped, sure. But that doesn't mean it's yours." The words hit harder than I expected. "I helped," I repeated. "I put my career on hold. I took extra shifts. I postponed my own life to keep this place afloat when Dad got sick." My father flinched. "We appreciate everything you've done," he said quickly. "But legally." Legally. That word shattered something inside me. "What about legally?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My mother exhaled, as if tired of pretending. We transferred the house last year. My vision blurred. Transferred to who? To Lily, she said simply. It made sense. She needs stability. The room spun. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly against the floor. You gave her the house. It's not like that, Lily said, her tone defensive now. You weren't even living here. I wasn't living here because I was working 2 jobs to pay for it. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. You signed documents, my father said quietly. You trusted us. I stared at him, realization crashing down like cold water. Those papers. The ones I'd signed after a 16-hour shift. The ones they'd told me were just refinancing details. You lied to me, I said. No one answered. Lily broke the silence with a soft, almost apologetic smile. Anyway, she said, pushing her chair back slightly, I'll need the guest room cleared by next week. The audacity of it stole my breath. I grabbed my bag, my hands numb, my chest aching like something vital had been torn out. I hope you're happy, I said, my voice shaking. All of you. As I walked toward the door, my mother called after me. Don't be so emotional. You're still family. I stopped at the threshold, my back to them. Family. I opened the door and stepped into the cold night air, my heart pounding with betrayal, confusion, and something else. Something darker, sharper, and quietly forming beneath the pain. Because as the door closed behind me, one truth finally became clear. The house might not be mine anymore. But neither was the version of me that let them take everything without a fight. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my couch, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun in slow, useless circles, like time mocking me. Every creak of my apartment felt louder than usual. Every memory of that dinner replayed itself with cruel clarity. My sister's smile, my mother's hand choosing Lily over me, my father's silence. But it wasn't just the betrayal that kept me awake. It was the paperwork. At 3 a.m, I sat up suddenly, heart racing. Those documents. The refinancing forms. The notary stamps. The dates. Something wasn't right. I hadn't signed them at my parents' house. I remembered that clearly. I'd signed them at the hospital cafeteria, balancing papers on my lap while my father slept in a room down the hall, monitors beeping like a countdown. My mother had rushed me, said the bank needed them that day, said we'd lose the house otherwise. I got up and opened the old metal filing cabinet I kept in the corner of my apartment, the one I dragged with me through 3 moves because I couldn't afford to lose anything important again. My fingers trembled as I flipped through folders labeled in my own handwriting. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, family. The word family made my stomach twist. I found copies of everything I'd ever signed. I always kept copies. Another habit born from being the responsible one. As the sun began to rise, pale light spilling across my living room floor, I noticed it. Discrepancy. The transfer date on the deed my mother had emailed me months ago, casually, buried beneath a dozen unrelated messages, didn't match the notarization date on the refinancing documents. 2 weeks apart. That wasn't normal. I pulled up my laptop, logged into the county records website, and searched the property address with hands that felt numb. The screen refreshed. Ownership. Lily Hartman. Lien holder. First National Bank. But beneath that, under the transaction history, was something that made my breath catch. A recorded power of attorney. Filed the same day my father was admitted to the hospital. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. I had signed a limited power of attorney, one that allowed my mother to handle medical and financial matters only related to my father's care. Not property transfers. Not deeds. Not ownership. My chest tightened, but this time it wasn't just pain. It was clarity. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd overstepped. Maybe even broken the law. For the first time since that dinner I smiled. But it wasn't soft. It wasn't sad. It was sharp. I took the day off work. My boss didn't argue. He'd seen the dark circles under my eyes for weeks now, the way grief and stress had been hollowing me out long before the dinner. I dressed carefully, choosing neutral colors, steady shoes. Armor disguised as normalcy. The law office smelled like coffee and old paper. The attorney, a woman in her early 40s with kind eyes and a voice that didn't rush me, listened without interrupting as I told her everything. I laid out documents across her desk like pieces of a crime scene. When I finished, my hands were clenched so tightly my nails bit into my palms. She leaned back slowly. "They used your power of attorney beyond its scope," she said. "If what you're telling me is accurate, this transfer is highly contestable." My heart skipped. "Oh, I can get the house back." She met my eyes. "Potentially. But it won't be easy. And it will get ugly." I laughed softly. "It already is." She nodded. "There's another issue. Your sister moving in, if she's planning renovations or changes, that complicates things. We need to act fast." I thought of Lily's voice at the dinner table. "I'll need the guest room cleared by next week." "She's already making plans," I said. "Then we start today." The first letter went out that afternoon. A formal notice of dispute. Certified mail. My name printed cleanly at the top, no longer tucked beneath someone else's authority. When my phone rang that evening, I didn't answer at first. I watched it buzz across the coffee table, my mother's name lighting up the screen again and again. Finally I picked up. "What did you do?" she demanded, skipping pleasantries. "I protected myself," I said calmly. "You're tearing this family apart," she cried. I almost laughed at the irony. "You did that when you lied to me." My father got on the line next, his voice tired, strained. "We never meant to hurt you." "But you did," I said. "And now I'm done pretending it doesn't matter." There was a long silence. Then Lily's voice cut in, sharp and panicked. "You're being selfish. You don't even need that house." The words rolled off me this time. "I needed honesty," I said. "You gave me theft." He gasped. "How dare you?" "I dare because I finally see you clearly." I hung up before she could respond. My hands shook afterward, but it felt different now. Not weakness, but adrenaline. Days passed in a blur of emails, meetings, and quiet moments where grief crept in when I least expected it. I mourned the family I thought I had. The sister I once defended. The parents I'd trusted with my future. But something else was growing too. Strength. The house became a battlefield. Lily delayed moving in, suddenly cautious. Renovation plans halted. The bank froze certain actions pending investigation. At work, I was offered a promotion I'd never thought to ask for. One I'd delayed chasing because I'd always been busy cleaning up someone else's mess. I accepted it without hesitation. One evening, as I sorted through more documents, I found an email from years ago. One my mother had sent Lily, accidentally copied to me. "Don't worry," it read. "She'll sign whatever we put in front of her. She always does." I stared at the screen, my chest burning. That version of me, the obedient one, the silent one, felt like a stranger now. I forwarded the email to my attorney. She replied minutes later. "This changes everything." I leaned back, exhaling deeply. For the first time, the fear loosened its grip. Because my sister thought she was moving into a house she owned. My parents thought they'd rewritten the rules without consequence. But they didn't realize something crucial. I wasn't fighting for a building anymore. I was fighting for myself. And I was done losing. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and old carpet, a scent that clung to my clothes long after I stepped inside. It was the kind of place where truths didn't whisper. They echoed, whether you were ready or not. Lily sat across the room from me, legs crossed, posture stiff with practiced confidence. She wore a cream blazer that screamed innocence, the same color she'd chosen for her engagement party years ago, the one where she'd announced she was pregnant before the speeches, stealing the spotlight from the bride without apology. Some habits never died. My parents sat beside her, my mother clutching her purse like a shield, my father staring at the floor. None of them met my eyes. I did. I wasn't shaking anymore. The judge entered. Papers shuffled. My attorney squeezed my arm once. A silent reminder that I wasn't alone, even if it felt like I was standing against my entire past. The proceedings began with the house, of course. Signatures. Authority. When my attorney stood, her voice was calm but sharp, like a blade wrapped in velvet. The power of attorney granted to my client's mother was limited, she said. It did not include property transfer rights. Yet a deed was executed regardless. Lily's attorney objected. My mother's face drained of color. The judge raised a hand. Overruled. Continue. My attorney didn't rush. She never did. And there is further evidence, she said, that the transfer was conducted with prior intent to mislead. She submitted the email. The one that said I'd sign whatever they put in front of me. A murmur rippled through the room. My mother inhaled sharply, a sound halfway between a gasp and a sob. Lily's jaw tightened, her eyes darting to our parents. The judge read silently, then looked up. Ms. Hartman, she said, addressing Lily, did you know this transfer was executed using a limited power of attorney? Lily hesitated, just for a second, but that second was enough. My parents handled everything, she said. I assumed it was legal. The judge's gaze sharpened. Assumptions do not absolve responsibility. Something cracked then. Not in me, but in the illusion Lily had lived behind her entire life. My attorney stood again. There is one more matter the court should consider, she said. She turned to Lily. Would you like to explain how you intended to move into the house while still being legally married to your husband? The room froze. Lily's face went pale. My heart stuttered, not from fear but shock. Her attorney jumped up. Objection, irrelevant. My attorney didn't flinch. Not irrelevant if marital assets were concealed. The judge leaned forward. Answer the question. Lily opened her mouth, closed it. My parents stared at her, confused. We're separated, Lily said finally. The judge's eyebrows lifted. Legally. Silence. The truth spilled out slowly after that, like blood seeping through fabric. Lily hadn't finalized her divorce. She'd been planning to move into the house to claim it as a primary residence before her husband could contest it. The house wasn't just stability, it was strategy. She'd used my parents, and they'd used me. My mother began to cry then, soft and broken. My father finally looked up at me, eyes filled with something I'd waited my whole life to see. Regret. The judge called a recess. Outside the courtroom, Lily rounded on me, her voice trembling with rage. You did this on purpose. I met her stare, calm as still water. No, you did. You've ruined my life. I thought of the nights I'd gone without sleep, the years I'd put myself last. No, I said quietly. I saved mine. She laughed bitterly. You think this makes you better? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The ruling came 2 weeks later. The deed transfer was voided. The house returned to joint ownership, temporarily, pending further division. But I didn't feel victorious. Felt finished. I met my parents one last time in the living room of the house that had started it all. Sunlight streamed through the windows I'd once cleaned by hand, chasing shadows I no longer feared. I'm selling my share, I said simply. My mother looked up, startled. But why? I smiled softly. Because I don't want it. Lily stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. And she was right. I'm done fighting for a place where I was never protected, I continued. You can keep the memories. I'm taking my future. My father's voice broke. We can fix this. I shook my head. Some things don't need fixing. They need ending. I walked out without looking back. 3 months later, I stood in a new apartment in a different part of the city. Smaller, brighter, entirely mine. I had new furniture, a job that respected me, and mornings that felt quiet instead of heavy. I still thought about my family sometimes, but not with longing, with understanding. The house had never been the prize. The prize was the moment I stopped begging for fairness and started choosing myself. And the night my sister announced she was moving in. That was the night I finally moved out of who I used to be.